What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing a really cool theme team for the Open Great League, at least in my opinion anyways, with a triple rock plus sand tomb team with Shadow Fortress, Runerigus, and a level 50 sand shrew. Now of course Rock Tomb got a pretty big buff this season, but unfortunately the same cannot be said for Sand Tomb, which is still unfortunately one of the worst charge trees in the entire game, but it does at least also have a guaranteed debuff assigned to it. Also I should say, like the other day where I mentioned not realizing Omnite needed an elite TM to get Rock Tomb and wasting a ton of regular TMs on it, I also didn't realize that was the case with Sand Shrew, as its evolution learns Rock Tomb without the need for an elite TM, and I think I just got them muddled up. Anyways, to complete the theme team, that meant unfortunately I had to use my only remaining elite charge TM on the Sand Shrew, so if you appreciate the investment, please leave a like on this video, and with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What do you think is the worst charge attack that also has some sort of stat altering effect assigned to it? Now it doesn't have to be a 100% chance to change any stats, but let me know in the comment section down below. And with that being said, let's get into the battles now. I'm sending into the first battle, leading Shadow Fortress into Shadow Dragonite. Dragonite seems to be a very common lead right now in the Go Battle League. We're going to stay in this matchup, of course, resisting the Dragon Breath damage. The opponent swaps into Azumarill, so I'm going straight for Rock Tomb here. But I will eventually swap out of this matchup just because I've got two ground types in the back, which, whilst they do also have Rock Tomb full coverage, they're going to struggle a little bit up against that Dragonite. So I'm going to tank the Ice Beam. I've already debuffed their attack. I'm now going to swap into Sand Shrew, and unfortunately, I don't think Rock Tomb will be enough damage from this range. So instead, what I'm going to do is shield this up here. I'm now going to overfarm in this matchup, farming up too close to back-to-back charge moves, firing off the Rock Tomb. I've still got enough health where if they come back in with the Dragonite, I should still be able to tank a charge move. So the opponent does come in with the Dragonite, they throw straight away. Of course, the opponent going to go for the Dragon Claw, which I'm able to tank, fire off a Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb should be enough damage to get the KO, and here I'm actually going to swap back into the Fortress. Maybe I should have just stayed in, let them farm me down. I was very low on the Sand Shrew, but we grab a shield with the Rock Tomb, and I'm already at another Rock Tomb, and Rock Tomb from this range will certainly take out the Shadow Dragonite, and their final Pokemon gonna be a Mantine. It's looking like it's game over. We can come in with the Runerigus, and the opponent is actually just gonna concede the match there. Of course, they didn't know what charge shoots I had, but Shadow Ball's still gonna be pretty good in that situation, so the opponent concedes. Into the next battle, we're gonna see a Shadow Annihilate in the lead, so not really ideal for me. I do have Runerigus, which is gonna be really good in this matchup. However, still running Sand Tomb, not gonna do much damage, so the opponent gonna go for the Rage Fist. I'm gonna no shield this, fire off that Sand Tomb, and then I will swap into my Runerigus, dropping that defense. These Shadow Claws are chunking. The opponent banks energy before swapping into a Lapras. And here, this is where Rock Tomb on the Runerigus is actually great for me. Rock Tomb gonna do big damage, and it drops their attack. Of course, I'm definitely just gonna shield anyways, as the opponent is gonna go for the Sparkling Aria. I can now overfarm by one Shadow Claw, fire off another Rock Tomb here, just guarantee the KO, and we do get the KO, but the opponent comes in with a Shadow Drapion. Now from this range, I should actually tank an Arctel, so the opponent should be farming up to the potential crunch, and the opponent actually got to swap out there, but unfortunately they're able to catch the Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb is going to drop the defense. It will allow me to farm them down, but I believe the opponent will reach another Rage Fist. So at this point, I'm going to come in with the Sand Shrew. I can tank a Rage Fist fairly comfortably here, so of course the opponent fires off the Rage Fist. We're now going to go for the Sand Attack farm down. They come back in with the Shadow Drapion, but they make a huge mistake throwing on CMP, losing CMP, and Sand Tomb is going to grab the final shield from the opponent, but the Shadow Drapion does have a ton of energy. Aquatel gets the KO there. I come in with the Runerigus, and at this point I'm definitely going to shield. I'm one away from the Sand Tomb. The opponent fires off the Aquatel, but they've got back-to-back charge attacks. That is really unfortunate for me, but Runerigus able to hang on, live the Aquatel with 1 HP and a Dream, fire off the Sand Tomb. It's not the best move, but they're already debuffed, and Sand Tomb gets the KO up against Shadow Drapion, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there. Into the next battle, see Malamar in the lead. So, of course, a Bug-type Pokemon, but we don't have any Bug-type moves, so not really ideal for me here. The opponent is going to go for the Superpower. Superpower, they're now going to swap into a Swalot, so I'm going straight for the Sand Tomb, debuffing their defense. As you can see, that really does not do much damage. But we're going to come in with the Sand Shrew, of course, expecting an Ice Beam, so I'm going to shield this up here as they do go for the Ice Beam. And maybe I could have thrown the Sand Tomb straight away, debuff their defense, and then got a full farm down. But at this point, I'm thinking Sand Tomb probably still doesn't get the KO, so go for the Rock Tomb. It does take them out there, and they come in with a Credilli now. Credilli, infamously, going to go for Rock Tomb even when Grass Knot is super effective, and Rock Tomb is resisted. So I'm going to no-shield this, and the opponent is actually going to go for the correct move there, going for the Grass Knot. We're now going to come in with the Runerigus. I am going to go straight for Rock Tomb as the opponent looking to throw on good timing there. Means I do get the Rock Tomb first. We are now going to swap, try to catch the charge move. It doesn't work out for me, so the opponent swaps back into Malamar. Rock Tomb is going to connect, but unfortunately not doing enough damage to put them into farm down range. At this point, I'm going to have to no shield. Foul play, gets the KO. We can come back in with the Runerigus, and I'm going to go straight for a Sand Tomb here. The opponent's still looking to throw on good timing. Sand Tomb is going to grab the final shield from the opponent, and my only win condition is if they go for a Rock Tomb. But at this point, the opponent is going to go for that Grass Knot once again, unfortunately taking out the Runerigus, and unfortunately I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. See Clodsire in the lead, and the opponent instantly swaps into Medicham, and that is a big mistake for them, of course. Runerigus, great matchup here, although not as great as it would usually be if I was running Shadow Ball, because of course, Sand Tomb, as you're going to see right now, really doesn't do much damage at all. The opponent doesn't even bother shielding either, so at this point, I'm going to have to shield this as an Ice Punch. If it doesn't KO, it will put me into farm down range. I'm now going to farm up 2 back-to-back Sand Tombs, and from this range, Sand Tomb will now be enough damage to get the KO, so I grab the first shield from the opponent, and I reach a second Sand Tomb, throwing on CMP. Sand Tomb gonna get the final shield from the opponent. So at this point, I'm actually happy to take that shield advantage. Gonna come in with my Sandshrew, go for the Sand Attack, farm down, and the opponent's gonna reveal their final Pokemon, which is a Malamar. So at this point, I swap, I catch the Charshoot, but I get a Volt Switch in as I swap out here. My hope is that the opponent swaps back instantly into Clodsire, but instead, they're gonna stay in with the Malamar. So at this point, I'm gonna go straight for a Sand Tomb here, because unfortunately, I don't think I can live a charge move. So at this point, the opponent is then gonna bank a ton of energy. They do eventually swap and catch a Sand Tomb onto Clodsire, which is actually not that bad for me. So what we're going to do, stay in this matchup, fire off another Sand Tomb, and now my Switch Clock is coming up. So what I'm going to do, swap into my Sandshrew and go for a Rock Tomb here, and this is actually going to debuff their attack here, which means I can now live an Earthquake. So I'm going to no-shield this. It is the Earthquake. I'm able to tank it. Of course, Poison Stings are resisted. I wait for the opponent to try and swap back into Malamar, but they don't get off their energy. Rock Tomb gets the KO, and now I can commit to a Sand Tomb, and from this range, whilst it's not the best move, it should be enough damage to take out the Clodsire, and I'm able to take that game. I should go into the next battle, leading into a Shadow Alone Sand Slash. So of course, I do have Sand Tomb for super effective damage, but you will see in this matchup, it's really not going to do much damage whatsoever. I let the first move go through as they fire off the Duran, and I can now farm up 2 back-to-back Sand Tombs. The first one is going to be no-shielded. It really doesn't do much damage, but I can fire off a second Sand Tomb immediately. Sand Tomb, going to drop the defense. It does grab the shield this time, so I actually swap into my Sandshrew here, getting off a few Sand attacks as they are dealing quite a lot of damage since they're double debuff. They then swap out, clear the debuff, come in with Azumarill. Not really ideal for me. I'm going to go straight for a Rock Tomb here. Rock Tomb is going to debuff their attack. It doesn't do much damage, and unfortunately, they can outpace me before I do reach another Rock Tomb. So at this point, Ice Beam does get the KO there. I can come in with the Shadow Fortress, and unfortunately, we're quite low now, so I don't even know if I can reach a Charge Move here before the opponent reaches another Charge Move of their own. So at this point, Ice Beam doesn't get the KO because they are still debuffed. I'm able to reach a Sand Tomb, but the opponent makes a brilliant catch that I don't think I even saw it in real time, catching it onto the Sand Slash, and at this point, it's going to be game over. There's nothing Runerigus can do in this matchup, so I no-shield, foul play, gets the KO, one more Shadow Claw, takes out the Fortress, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on that into the next battle to see more Pekka in the lead. So I'm going to say swap into my Runerigus, and we're met with an Azumarill once again. But we're going to go straight for the Rock Tomb here. Rock Tomb is going to be no-shielded by the opponent. It drops their attack. And at this point, I'm going to shield in this matchup here. I learned from the last matchup there, of course, up against the Sandshrew, that no-shielding the Ice Beam didn't really help me out there. So I am going to use my shield. I'm now going to go for a Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb actually grabs a shield from the opponent, which is very nice for me. And now I'm definitely going to double shield as I realize I can probably flip switch advantage in this situation. So I'm now going to overfarm, fire off the Rock Tomb here. They're debuffed, so Rock Tomb going to do more damage. Rock Tomb grabs the final shield from the opponent, and I'm able to reach another Rock Tomb before the opponent throws a charge move. Rock Tomb gets the KO from that range because of the debuff to their defense. They come in with a Talonflame, but they don't get the Incinerate farm down. I was almost certain they were going to swap into Morpeko after that second Incinerate, but they don't, so I'm able to land the Rock Tomb, and then the opponent just concedes the match after seeing the Sandshrew, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on that into the next battle, see a Frost Slash in the lead, and they're actually on Hex, which is very interesting to see. Of course, Hex did get a buff this season, but I'm still yet to see a Frost Slash running Hex until now. So the opponent fires off the Shadow Ball. I'm now going to go for 2 Volt Switches, fire off a Rock Tomb, throwing on good timing. Rock Tomb going to be shielded by the opponent, but they can just barely outpace me to that next charge move. The opponent goes for Shadow Ball, but I'm able to hang on. They then swap Catch the Charge move onto Marowak, which is very nice. Rock Tomb, of course, is resisted. However, debuffing their attack is probably quite helpful for me, because now I can come in with the Sand Shrew. I don't need to shield this. Bone Club, not going to do too much damage, but likewise, Sand Tomb, also really not going to do much damage whatsoever in this matchup. But I should be able to reach another Sand Tomb before they throw the Bone Club and fully farm me down. So the opponent goes for the Bone Club there. I can now go for a second Sand Tomb, and Sand Tomb still not going to have damage to get the KO, but it does put them into farm down range. However, the opponent actually comes back in with the Frost Sass. They go for the Hex Snipe, and at this point, I'm going to come in with the Runerigus. I realize I can probably shield once and then go for a full Shadow Claw farm down. So the opponent fires off the Avalanche. Runerigus gets that farm down. Huge for me. And let's see what the opponent wants to do. They come in with their final Pokemon, a Morpeko. Now, of course, I've got Sand Tomb here. It's super effective up against a Glassy Pokemon, and it doesn't even do like half their HP. The opponent fires off these Psychic Fangs there. I'm expecting the opponent to swap back into their Marowak, and they do exactly that. But I get a full Shadow Claw farm down. Now I realize at this point, Rock Tomb going to do more damage than the Sand Tomb, and it nearly gets the KO. One more Shadow Claw, takes out Morpeko, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. See Clefable in the lead, so a great lead matchup for me. The opponent's going to safe swap into a Shadow for Alligator. Now, I don't have a great response, so I'm actually just going to stay in with the Fortress, and I don't mind double shielding if I have to. I'm going to go for the Rock Tomb first, because Sand Tomb just not going to be enough damage to allow me to fast move farm them down if they do shield it. So I might as well go for the Rock Tomb, debuff their attack here, and I still will be able to go for a Volt Switch farm down if I double shield, which I'm going to do. I get the farm down, I come out with quite a lot of energy, but the opponent's going to have a Diggersby in the back. Now, Diggersby really tricky for this team to deal with, because of course Rock Tomb is resisted, Runerigus Shadow Claw is double resisted, and then Sand Shrew with the Sand attacks, it's just not going to do much damage either. And of course they're going to have Fire Punch for the Fortress, which also has Volt Switch, which is double resisted, so just not great for the entire team. But either way, we still got a chance here. They come back in with the Clefable. I've debuffed their attack, but Moonblast still gets the KO there, which is unfortunate, and they do still have a shield remaining as well. So at this point, we're going to come back in with the Fortress. I'm going to overfarm, fire off the Rock Tomb here. Rock Tomb is going to be shielded by the opponent, which is definitely not ideal for me. At this point, of course, I am going to resist everything. Moonblast does not get the KO, so I can fire off the Rock Tomb here. Rock Tomb should be enough damage to take out Clefable, but we're going to come in with the Sand Shrew, and you're just going to see this Sand Tomb, sorry, is going to do pathetic damage. Sand Tomb really just, like, what is even the point in Sand Tomb? Let's be honest. The opponent goes for Scorching Sand. Scorching Sand is going to do so much more damage than the Sand Tomb. We reach another Sand Tomb here. Sand Tomb is still not going to do much damage, and I'm not going to put them into range where even if I do reach another Sand Tomb on my Fortress, it's not going to get the KO anyways, but they can actually just come in and quick attack, farm down the Fortress, and unfortunately I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into next battle to see another Shadow Dragonite in the lead. So once again, going to stay in this lead matchup here. And the opponent is going to throw just before I do reach that Rock Tomb. So the opponent is actually going to go for a Dragon Claw bait. And at this point, I'm now going to overfarm just a little bit, fire off the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb is going to be no shielded by the opponent. They take the shield advantage, and they're going to come in with a Gastrodon, so not really ideal for me. And actually, Mudslap users in general, pretty tricky for this team as well, especially if they are the ground typing, because, of course, once again, Rock Tomb is going to be the main hitting charge move on this team, and it is resisted. So at this point, I'm now going to shield this. They farmed up a lot, and they go for a Water Pulse there, so huge shield. Of course, Body Slam is double resisted, so they kind of had to full send it. I can now go for another Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb grabs a shield from the opponent, and I reach another Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb, still not enough damage to get the KO, despite being double debuffed already. The opponent reaches another Water Pulse, but at this point we come in with a Sand Shrew, and they've got a Clodsire in the back, so this should be over. But still, Sand Tomb is such a bad move here, so there's no guarantees. Sand Tomb drops their defense, which means that hopefully we're doing more damage with the Sand attacks, but I actually don't know if that is the case. Sand attack, not a particularly hard-hitting fast move, and as well, of course, it is a one-turn fast move, so it might not even hit any breakpoints after debuffing their defense. But either way, we go for another Sand Tomb here. Sand Tomb Still not going to get the KO, but it does grab the final shield. What I do want to do is come out with, well, potentially a charge we've loaded, but the opponent goes for the Earthquake. We get fairly low. So at this point, you know what? I realize Gastrodon is just so low. So we go for the Sand Tomb, and now we can just Sand Attack, farm down the Gastrodon, and I'm able to take that game. But that was a lot harder work than it should have been. Into the next battle, we're going to see a Salazzle in the lead. So, of course, not ideal for the Foresters. Going to say swap into Runerigus, and we're met with a Shadow for Alligator. So, of course, definitely not ideal here, but we're going to go straight for Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb is going to be no-shielded by the opponent. At this point, I'm hoping I can just shield this and then go for a full Shadow Claw farm down. So, we shield that up, and we are able to get that Shadow Claw farm down. Huge for me, but let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent is going to come in with a Shadow Cacturn, and that is definitely not ideal for me. We go straight for Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb debuffs their attack there. I'm now going to come in with the Shadow Fortress, and the opponent probably going to go for Dynamic Punch here. They are debuffed, but I'm going to no-shield anyways. Kind of force a no-shield, and the opponent actually on Dark Pulse there. I'm now going to swap into my Sandshrew, and at this point, maybe I should have just committed to a full farm down there. I realized if the opponent had gone for back-to-back Poison Fangs, could have been tricky for me, but I could have got a full farm down. But now, unfortunately, I'm just not going to be able to get the KO here. I can go and shield this up, go for a Sand Tomb, debuffing their defense, but then I've got a non-stab Sand Tomb from Shadow Fortress, and even though this is one of the glassiest Pokemon in the Open Great League, it is resisted damage. So unfortunately, Sand Tomb, not enough damage to take out the Shadow Cacturn, and I do end up losing that game. But GG's up on there. Into the next battle, we see Blastoise in the lead. So great lead for me. The opponent's going to say swap into a Sableye. So I'm actually just going to stay in this matchup here. No shield the first charge move as they go for a foul play, and then go straight for a Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb is going to do quite a lot of damage in this matchup. I now swap into my Sandshrew, and the opponent is going to fire for charge. At this point, I realize, of course, Hydro Cannon is going to do a lot more damage than a Dazzling Gleam that's already debuffed. I don't really know why they went for Dazzling Gleam there. If they went for foul play, they could have reached back-to-back. But either way, they come back in with the Blastoise. I've got so much energy now, I can actually reach back-to-back Rock Tombs before the opponent reaches their first Hydro Cannon. So at this point, Rock Tomb number 2 gets the Blastoise incredibly low. They will fire for charge. At this point, I'm happy to let Sandshrew go down, and now I'm going to come in with my Runerigus. The opponent swaps into a Shadow Golurk, but of course, these Shadow Claws are chunking. I'm going straight for Sand Tomb here. Sand Tomb debuffs their defense. This would just allow an easy farm down for the Runerigus. They go straight for Shadow Punch there. We can go for that Shadow Claw farm down, and it's absolutely game over. They come back in with the Blastoise. I'm going for Sand Tomb straight away. Sand Tomb gonna be no-shielded at this point, and it does get the KO up against the Blastoise, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there. Into next battle, we see a Gastrodon in the lead. So I'm going to say swap into my Runerigus once again, and the opponent is choosing to stay in initially before swapping, banking a ton of energy into their Ferrothorn. So, of course, not really ideal here. We're going to go for the Sand Tomb. I can now fire off a Rock Tomb. I've debuffed the defense here. So, if the opponent expects a Shadow Ball, they might end up shielding, and they do exactly that. So, at this point, that's probably the best case scenario for me. We do grab a shield there, and we drop the defense. Now, I'm going to come in with the Fortress. Unfortunately, I've only got resistant moves to throw, but that's also going to be the case for the Ferrothorn. So, at this point, I'm going to no-shield this, and the opponent is going to go for a Flash Cannon, which is single resisted, rather than, of course, going for a Power Whip, which is double resisted. But either way, we can go for the Rock Tomb here. We've debuffed the defense, and that does quite a lot of damage, and it actually allows me to Volt Switch, farm them down. They come back in with the Gastrodon. I'm going straight for Rock Tomb once again, because Sand Tomb, is just such an awful move there. So I might as well debuff their attack first. The opponent goes for Earth Power, and because I debuff their attack, I can now reach a Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb not going to do much damage, but it does drop their defense. But they've got Galarian Weezing in the back, so the opponent is unfortunately going to be on Brutal Swing here, which is definitely not ideal. They're able to reach a Brutal Swing very quickly, and you're going to see once again, Sand Tomb just really does not do much damage whatsoever. Sand Tomb, pathetic damage. That's super effective, but I can go and win CMP. Sand Tomb, number 2, gets the KO there, but unfortunately, Gastrodon is just too healthy. They will be able to go for a full farm down with that fast move Mud Slap, and so I go for a Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb does allow me to live one more Mud Slap, but I end up losing that game with both shields still in play, so pretty embarrassing there, but GG's to that opponent there. Into the next battle, we see a Shadow Primeape in the lead, so the opponent's going to say swap into a Shadow Drapion. Fine with me. I'm able to reach a Sand Tomb here. Sand Tomb, once again, not going to do that much damage, but it is super effective, and because the opponent swaps out there and allows me to throw, I should be ahead by 1 turn. So the opponent goes to the crunch there. I can now fire off a second Sand Tomb as I throw on the CMP tie. Sand Tomb grabs a shield, and at this point, I'm happy to let the Fortress go down. So Aqua Tail gets the KO there. Going to come in with my Sandshrew, of course. I'm going to let this move go through here as it is just going to be an Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail is super effective, but I want to save my shields for the end game. So let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent comes in with a Corviknight, so that's fine with me, going straight for Rock Tomb here. Rock Tomb is going to debuff their attack. I'm going to swap into my Runerigus, and if the opponent stays in like they're doing, then I might just stay in and shield here, as the opponent could be on payback. The opponent is going to go for an Iron Head, so probably not going to be on payback, in which case I'm going to no-shield the next charge move, and the opponent does just go for another Iron Head. Fine with me. I'm going to fire up to 100 energy, fire off the Rock Tomb. From this range, Rock Tomb should be enough damage to take out the Corviknight. They come back in with their Shadow Primeape, and I'm going straight for Sand Tomb here. Sand Tomb, not going to do much damage, but it does grab that final shield from the opponent, and now I've debuffed their defense, so even a Rock Tomb, which is non-stab, and of course, going to hit for resisted damage, is still going to do quite a lot of damage in this matchup. Rock Tomb gets them very low. I can now swap, make a pointless catch here, but I'm able to catch a Rage Fist. Rage Fist is going to get the KO there. We can come back in, one more Shadow Claw, gets the farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to opponent into the next battle to see another Dragonite in the lead. So once again, going to stay in this matchup here, resisting the Dragon Breath damage, and the opponent is actually not going to throw it immediately. Instead, going to overfarm just a little bit here. The opponent goes for Superpower this time around before swapping into a Ferrothorn. So once again, Ferrothorn here, a little bit awkward just because we're both going to do resistant damage. I could go for Sand Tomb, which is going to be neutral damage. However, it's just not a very hard-hitting move at all, as I've said basically in every single battle in this video. But either way, I double debuff their attack. I'm able to reach a third Rock Tomb here, but I can't really swap out just because, of course, I've got two ground types in the back. Even triple debuffed, a grass move is going to do a fair amount of damage. They actually go for Thunder there, so I'm now going to stay in, hoping the opponent would panic and fire off a Power Whip. However, the opponent does go for a second Thunder, getting the KO, and at this point, it's not looking too good for me. The opponent comes in with a Lapras. We're going straight for Rock Tomb here. Rock Tomb is going to connect. It debuffs their attack, and this should actually allow me to live a Sparkling Aria. So no shield, Sparkling Aria gets me fairly low, but I'm able to reach a last second Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb might even grab a shield at this point, and it does, so I'm going to swap into my final Pokemon, my Runerigus. Now, I'm hoping I've put them into range where I can just farm them down, but the opponent swaps back into Dragonite, and they're going to fire off a charge move straight away. Of course, Dragon Claw, all shields are down, does decent damage there. I'm actually going to go for a Sand Tomb, expecting a shield from the opponent, and we do grab the shield, but I'm not sure if I can go for a full farm down. I panic, I throw the Sand Tomb. Honestly, I don't know if I would have been able to go for a full farm down there. I kind of needed to go for the full farm down. As you can see, I just barely miss out on reaching the Sand Tomb, and the opponent comes out with the charge move loaded, and of course, Sparkling Aria takes out the Sandshrew, and unfortunately I do lose that game. But GG to opponent there into the final battle of this video, leading into Galarian Moltres. So this is definitely where I want to see it in the team. Of course, the rest of my team is either going to hit for resisted, well, both going to hit for resisted fast move damage, but also Runerigus going to take super effective damage from those sucker punches. But they come in with Azumarill, oh sorry, not Azumarill, what am I talking about? That's a Galarian Corsola. So I'm going to go and debuff their attack and now swap into my Sandshrew. I'm going to shield the first charge move just because I will go for a Rock Tomb here and debuff their attack again. So I might as well shield the first one, because now, of course, they will reach another Nightshade, but it will be double debuff, so not going to do too much damage in this situation. The opponent goes for the Nightshade there. We're able to get the full farm down, and this point I did consider going for a Sand Tomb, expecting, since I've already revealed Rock Tomb, to grab a shield anyways, but I kind of need to debuff their attack there, and I am still able to reach a Sand Tomb regardless. So Sand Tomb is going to be double shielded by the opponent. I then swap into my Fortress, and I force the opponent to throw their energy. At this point, they full send the Brave Bird, which implies they're probably going to swap out pretty much straight away up against whatever I bring in, which means that's great for me because the opponent has to clear the debuff there, but they come in with a Clodsire, which is a great matchup for the Runerigus. Sand Tomb, still not going to do much damage though, so honestly, not as dominant as you might think. Despite the fact that I am double resisting the Poison Sting damage, these Sand Tombs, they just don't do much damage whatsoever. So at this point, I'm going to shield the first move. They actually bait with a Sludge Bomb, which is unfortunate for me, but I can still live an Earthquake fairly comfortably, so I'm not going to bother trying to swap out and make the catch there. Instead, I'm just going to overfarm, make sure I've got pretty much a Rock Tomb loaded already. We go for the Rock Tomb here. I actually go for Rock Tomb just because I was expecting the opponent to swap out and make the catch. They don't make the catch though, and I can still reach a last second Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb, of course, gets the KO up against the Moltres, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.